So hey guys, for today's episode, I'll be talking to Mr. Christian Vallez. He is a storytelling consultant with his own firm, and today he'll be running us through the basics of storytelling and just what to look for when telling a good story. And then we'll try and talk to him about uh, how specific mediums capture a story, how they differ from one another, and then we'll be focusing on video games, especially Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, I wanted to talk to Mr. Valles because I wanted to get an insight on what makes a story a story. So, for example, is there a, rule set for telling a story, or is it just a free for all? So, I needed a to ground this whole project by discussing just what narrative is from an actual expert in the field. So this will be very important in setting up the rest of the video series. Right. So hello. So good morning. So to begin the interview, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Christian Valles.
And hello. And what do you do?
Uh, well, I'm a narrative strategist, I suppose. I also work in the I work as a storytelling consultant. I work for Overmind, the company I started. I also teach at the University of Asia Pacific. I teach data storytelling, creative writing, and performing arts.
Interesting. So to begin our interview, may I ask? So we'll just get right into it.
Sure.
So, to start, could you tell me or us what a story is, and are there central elements to a story?
Okay, sige. Well, for me, no, a story is a collection of events that has some sense of cohesion, no? Meaning, according to Aristotle, at least you have to have three major interrelated events, no, called the beginning, the middle, and the end. So yun yung mga fundamental non-negotiables mo. So basically, they are events happening to man, no? Uh, uh, that has that sort of structure. It depicts the struggle of man moving from point A to point B. Usually, it shows man or a protagonist trying to achieve something and trying to overcome something that impedes him from achieving the original goal, no, that he set for himself. So parang ganun. That's I think more or less that's a general description of what a story is.
All right. And then, can you tell me what makes a story good? Is there a proper way to
Right.
tell it to an audience?
Yeah, okay. It's a little bit of ano no. Uh we can say, I suppose, no, based on the classical definitions of story, and I'm using Aristotle here, the Western definitions of story. Although kahit naman din sa East, no, basically um, similar din naman ng mga elements and definitions natin, no. But a good story, I suppose, una ay if there is that yung nabanggit ko kanina, no, merong uh, causal relationship between the events, no, the beginning causing the middle causing the end, and when you see it, it flows, no, it flows like a dramatic arc, and it sounds so commonsensical, parang ha talaga ba ganun lang kadali i-define yung what a good story is, but actually not all movies and not all stories are structured like that, meaning they fail to make it like that, no. How do you know if a story fails that, no? when you reach the end, and yung ending that you witness is not something that is caused by the middle. And the middle is not something that is caused by the beginning. It's something na bigla na lang, may events na lang na biglang nangyayari. There's a common term for something like that, no? An ending that pops out of nowhere. It's called the Deus Ex Machina, no? When the storyteller does not know how to end the story, just calls on God to appear, or any divine being to
Yeah.
appear to solve the problem for him. So um that's one of, I think, for me, no, one of the characteristics of what a good story is, that the major events are held together by a causal relationship. Another, maybe, uh siguro something to look out for is a well-designed character, particularly the protagonist. And when a well-designed character, to me, is someone whose motivations are very clear, someone whose goals are very clear and aspirational, no, yung hindi, meron siyang goal na hindi madaling ma-achieve, but he has the capacity to achieve it. And at the same time, you give him a set of obstacles, maybe an antagonist, or maybe a series of obstacles, or maybe just one, no, something to stop him from getting there, from achieving the goal. So it cannot be too easy, and it cannot be too hard also, no. If you make it too hard, then the story will not be, it will be dark and bleak and hopeless, no, because you want to root for the protagonist. So to me, a good story is if it presents a series of events, a protagonist that you can relate to, no, you can see yourself um relating, well, a protagonist where you can see yourself in, no, something like that, no, something like that.
All right. That's yeah. That's a very very good explanation. So could you tell me are stories, are they only limited to like one medium, or is there a vast like range of mediums that
Uh,
story could be told
well,
effectively?
stories are ano, no, I think it's parang ano yan, it appears everywhere, no, in humanity, and it can take a lot of forms, no, oral storytelling, so pwedeng yung mga parables, no, fables, folk tales, no, the fairy tales that parents tell their children, anecdotes. So sa oral form pa lang marami na, no? And then there's the written form, novels, short stories, flash fiction, video, no, multimedia, movies, radio drama, theater also, no, is a story, and of course computer games, no, very much part of it. Stories are very much part of computer games, even tabletop games, no. Dungeons and Dragons operate on the principles of story. Even card games, no, for example, this card game that I play, Resistance, no, the Resistance, para siyang wolf, ano ba to, werewolf na
Werewolf.
game, no, Resistance. And meron pang ano yan, meron pa yung variation, yung Avalon, no, na meron
Yeah,
kang set of characters, di ba, based on King Arthur's court, no. Tapos
yes.
ang goal mo is to weed out the evil spy, no, the evil character. So even in the gameplay, it follows the structure of a story. So stories are found practically everywhere in our lives.
Yeah. So you mentioned before visual storytelling, like video movies and TV shows. So is there a like a unique way in how these types of visual, or like in the video in the computer games, is there a difference in how the stories are told as opposed to, for example, a more
Yeah.
traditional way of storytelling?
Okay. Well, I also work as a filmmaker. I used to
Ah,
be a filmmaker. So the one of the major differences in visual storytelling is how stories are told through the visual medium, meaning it's less words but more picture, no?
Yes.
Although when we watch films, merong namang dialogue sa movies, even sa TV show, no? But in when you study film and you study filmmaking, you learn that the primary mode of storytelling, yeah, sure, there's a script, there's a story behind it, but the way to push the story forward is is how you compose the images and how you put one image after the other, no? How you put together several images so that the combination of these images, known as the montage, creates a story, and also it steers some emotion from your audience. And through the years, parang may na-develop na some sort of a language, no? What we call the motion picture language. So it is shared by TV, film, and even video games. I would think, no, that a series of images, no, meaning when we say the motion picture language, we also refer to camera angles,
Yeah.
shot sizes, no, shot sizes, camera movement, no, which add to the way the stories are being told. And in fact, no, it takes the place of some of the literary devices. For example, POV, no. POV is uh, used differently well, POV is highlighted through the use of voice in the written form. In cinema, obviously, the camera is the POV, and then it depends on how you characterize. You can characterize the camera as the POV, depending on how you direct it, no? So you can use the camera as the POV. You can show the character and put the camera behind over the shoulder to show what kind of perspective it is, no, and etc. No, so uh the storytelling is driven by what we see instead of what we read or what we hear.
Interesting. And then, well, to further that conversation, are there inherent challenges or limitations, kumbaga, in how a visual story can be told?
Well, siguro ano, challenges, no, well, the storyteller will now be ano, I think will now be, will not necessarily limited, but he will now have to take into consideration the, at least in the modern era, no, the size
Yes.
of where, of the distribution channel. So iba
Yes.
na yung mode of storytelling if you are going to consume the story through your phone, through a
Ah,
big screen, through the cinema, or through a big TV, or through the laptop, or through uh, an 11-inch TV, a 15-inch TV. So it varies, like the experience varies. It's different when you watch, for example, if you watch Lord of the Rings, if you watch it in the cinemas, it's a
yes.
different experience as compared to watching it in your cell phone, no? So um so there's a huge effective difference, no, sa consumption of the story and the emotions being steered depending on the size.
Yes.
So the storyteller, I think, must keep these things into consideration, especially if he's designing an experience, no?
Yes.
Kasi para sa akin, visual storytelling is also about that. The storyteller must design an experience, an emotional roller coaster, and dapat alam niya kung saan i-consume yung visual story na yun. Ganito ba kalaki or ganun ba
Ah,
kalaki? Parang,
also, well, because I've also noticed that in for example, movies,
yeah.
the scope of a story has to also be limited to like the runtime. Is that also a big challenge as opposed to, for example, writing a novel where you have like,
Right, right. Well, this has been this parang ano siya, it has evolved through the years, especially in the last maybe 10-20 years. For example, um movies are traditionally designed to run for around an hour and a half and not beyond 2 hours. And it is designed like that, not because of our attention span, because in the olden times, mahaba naman mga movies, may 3-hour films, 4-hour films, nagbe-break nga sila, no?
Yeah.
But economics dictated the length of the film. But they have computed the optimal number of screenings that you can have in a day in a mall. Parang the more screenings that you have, the more people can watch it, the more people can pay for it. That's why producers prefer to cut long films so that they can have more screen time, no screening time, more iterations, which means more money. For TV, for example, the design is different, no, especially for interrupted TV because you have commercial breaks. So even in the writing process, and I've had experience writing for TV as well, no, you are asked to write in four or five gaps, meaning you are considering the commercial gaps, no? So you have to design an experience for your audience that will last for around maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and then know that there will be a commercial break. So meaning before you hit the commercial break, there must be an emotional high and some sort of a cliffhanger, and then there's a commercial break, and then you reset that emotion. So the length is modified or qualified by those considerations. Because of streaming, no, and video on demand, that has changed drastically. Visual storytellers are now more courageous in doing longer form, meaning 45 minutes, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Yung isang episode sa series, 1 hour na. For dati, kailangan 20 minutes lang. Ngayon, matapang na sila kasi alam nila people will binge watch,
Yeah.
no, at will without commercial breaks. So we watch series. Well, we can sit down and watch 6 episodes in one sitting. Sometimes the entire weekend we watch the entire season in
Yeah.
one sit, and it depends, no. So nagiging matapang na tayo sa length. In video games more so, no, more so.
Yeah.
I mean, the longer the better, the more you can suck in the player, no, in playing the
Yeah.
game into the story, then the better it is, no. So nagbago siya through the years, I think, no. I think economics has had a lot to do with it, and also the medium, no, has dictated the length of time. Finally, yung sa mobile device, no, if you watch, you can parang stories designed to be consumed in the phone are shorter. You don't really
Yeah.
watch long form in the phone. No? You watch what 3-minute shorts, 30
Yeah.
seconds, 2-minute TikTok videos, mga ganyan.
So now you mentioned video games. Um do you think that like can we delve deeper into what you said before, like how a video game can effectively tell a story by sucking in a player? Um like how do you think that for example a game can convey a story that could really capture the attention of an audience?
Yeah. Well, I think primarily, no, the main strength of a game, and I think this is what it has, no, over the other forms. Kasi the other forms, for example, theater, cinema, TV, these longer visual storytelling forms, their goal is to achieve some level of suspension of disbelief. And so you present to them a world and a story, and then you make your audience forget that they are in the real world and they're witnessing a story happening in a different world. So parang the aim, especially in cinema, if you're watching in the cinema, that's why it's dark and it's huge. The
Yeah.
goal is for the movie to swallow the audience into that world, no, that's the goal. And computer games have parang taken it to the next level, meaning hindi ka lang sinwallowed into the world, you are made to participate in the
Yeah.
story. And that makes the storytelling, I think, more powerful, because you're not just witnessing as a passive watcher, no? You're not just watching a protagonist go through the struggles. you become the protagonist and you
Yes.
go through the struggles as the character. And so you wanna you want to win, no? You want to
Yeah.
win, you want to overcome. And so you have more ownership of the story as opposed to a passive viewer. So I think yun yung ownership mo sa story, yun yung hook ng isang
Yeah.
computer game.
All right. So by the way, were you able to watch the video that
Yeah.
I
And I
yes.
played that game. I finished that game.
All right. So at least we're on the same page on the video game.
Yes, yes.
So what were your thoughts on the game? Was it did it deliver a good story? Was it able
Yeah,
to deliver a good protagonist?
yeah. Well, it's one of my favorite games of all time, to be honest, no.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'll just have to say the name of the game first for the
yeah,
audience.
Red Dead.
It's Red Dead
Yeah, Red Dead.
Redemption 2, from
Yes.
Rockstar Games. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah. I actually I actually was not able to play the original Red
Alright.
Dead 1, no. Oh, so this is the first this was the first Red Dead game I played.
Uh-huh.
I got addicted to it. I got addicted to it. I got so sucked into the world that I got to a point that I did not want to finish the game. So I was just roaming around different village towns, no. I was just hunting. I was collecting skins, collecting animals. Now, I'm looking for side quests because I did not want the game to end. No, so but this is one of my favorite games because it allowed you to really explore the world, and the world is pretty large. It allowed you to sort of define yourself as the protagonist. Are you going to be a good person or are you going to be a bad person? You have that choice eh.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
there is a story arc naman, no? Meron kang arc na
Yeah,
pupuntahan na parang regardless kung anong path yung sundan mo, meron pa rin namang definite ending. No? So
yes.
kumbaga may basic uh, plot points na kahit gumanon-ganon ka, dadating at dadating ka sa certain points na yun. So it feels nice, no? It feels nice
Yes.
that you have freedom to move around, to do whatever you want, but there's still a parang may railing na ginagrade ka so that you
Yeah.
reach the proper arc of your story. So yeah, it's a wonderful game. Well crafted game. The story is moving. And hindi lang moving, no, na ano ako na naapektuhan ako sa storytelling. Like kanina, I was watching the clip you sent me, no, and it reminded me of I remember playing that mission, no.
Yes.
Kahit ako na ano na appall ako sa nangyari, parang fuck. I forgot na the story before that and what
Yes.
happens after, no? But just watching that entire mission lang, parang sure you're concerned for the kid, you're looking for the
Yeah.
kid, etc. Pero the violence that you and your
Yeah.
team inflicted on that family and how the scene ended, oh my god, that was so brutal. And how the mother was weeping because all
Yeah,
her
yeah.
children got killed, and the house was burning. Parang bullshit, and I'm part of that destruction. I'm
Yes.
part of that carnage, no. And parang medyo ano siya, disturbing siya, and especially when you're playing it, baka
Yeah.
mas malakas pa yung tama sa iyo niyan. So, but I love Red Dead Redemption 2. One of the best games ever for me.
And yeah, for me, that's why I also chose this for this project. Yeah, because I think it also is a great example of how, like, especially in with the better quality graphics. I mean, sure,
Yeah,
like Red Dead 1, it was also a great story and all that, but the visual presentation, you still had to, like you said, you still had to. There was still a level of suspension of disbelief. Unlike
yeah,
here, it's so like realistic, right? Like
yeah.
even the pace of the game is very realistic as well. But to add to that, do you have any like ideas on w- was there anything missing in how the story was told, or was it like like a perfect way on how to present the story? Something like that. Yeah.
Well, hindi ko alam yung perfect, no, but I suppose you could use that that term, no. Because I like with storytelling for me kasi I share David Fincher's definition. Para sa kanya kasi storytelling is all about exposition. And para sa akin ganun din na storytelling. It's all about the proper timing of revelations when you reveal certain details and when the audience start knowing things that they don't know, you know, and
Yeah.
the sequence of how they know it and palala ng palala yung nadidiscover nila as you go along, no? And if you look at that mission na yon sa yung pangalan ng Breakwater
Braithwaite.
ba?
Yeah.
Braithwaite
Yeah.
House. The Braithwaite House, no, yung mission na yun, for example, um it begins with you arriving at the camp, no. So
Yeah.
so exposition, kung if you break down the ano no, the structure of the story, it begins with you arriving at the camp and everyone is panicked.
Yes.
There's a meeting, you enter, and then the mother enters panicking, looking for her kid. That's act one. That's exposition kagad, a statement of the problem, so to
Yeah.
speak. And in any good story, you want to start immediately at the action. Ano yung problema natin? What are we dealing with right here? And so you start the mission with the kid has been kidnapped
Yeah.
by the family na tinarantado nyo rin, na niresbakan nyo, na ninakawan ng grupo ninyo. So
Yeah.
there's a war going on, you know, there's a feud going on between two camps, and a kid in your camp has been kidnapped,
Yeah.
and then the leader of the camp wants to get back at them. No, let's retrieve the kid. Let's give hell to them. And you're part of the party. You're not even the head of the camp. You're part of
Yeah.
the party. So yun yung ano no revelation, the first part, and then the next part is interesting and immersive as well, because really the first part, the second part, pwede namang dayain na tumalon na yung ano, cutscene na nandun na sila sa
Yeah.
ano. But
Yeah.
no, you have to ride your horse and you have to ride with the party. So there's the experience of riding through the map from your camp to their house. So it achieves well at least two things. One is you um you are reminded of the milieu where you are, and the time where and when we are, and how far it is from your camp to their camp. So you feel that distance and that journey. And as you journey, the anticipation of the encounter increases, no? So that's the first effect of that. And it's an immersive experience because you
Yes.
are playing it. So you're controlling a little bit, no, you're controlling the speed of the horse, the turns of the
Yeah.
horse. Pwede mo namang i-automate din yun, pero you have the option kasi di ba, to control the
Yeah.
horse. Pero pwede mo rin gawin na automatic na lang, nakapindot ka lang na ganun, sumusunod na lang sa kalsada yung kabayo mo.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But the second important thing there is, as the party is moving, the characters are talking, no? The characters
Yes.
are
Yeah.
talking, and it will seem like they're just casually talking about what they're about to do and their frustrations, etc. But really what's happening there is um little details are being revealed about the mission, about the characters, about their situation. So nadadagdagan yung information ng audience casually, which adds to the anticipation of the encounter.
Yes. Yeah.
So yung buong journey na yon, actually, so very well told experiential storytelling. And so pagdating mo dun sa sa venue, pumped up ka na. Gagawin mo na lang, papatay ka na lang kasi pinag-usapan nyo. So when you get there, shoot everyone, no?
Yeah.
But this is what happens, no, that may twist sa dulo after you've killed everyone and you got the woman.
Yeah.
And then she starts crying na, "You've killed all my sons." Oh my God.
Yeah.
Parang I just enjoyed killing everyone, and now I see this woman crying na I have killed all her children. Parang what the fuck did I just do? And then you see a good story is also like that if you put the
Yeah.
protagonist in a moral dilemma,
Yes. Yeah.
no? And you feel that, no? So I feel the best elements of a good story is put there, and that's a good example, that entire episode, and the entire game is like that, huh? The entire game
Yes.
is
Yeah.
like
We did discuss that video games really do immerse the audience, right? But um we wouldn't really say that it's like the end all be all of storytelling. Like it's still, however, there up until only a few years ago, it was never really considered like on par with, for example, television and video games, movies, because it was considered like juvenile. So would you say that it's now reached a level where it could be considered on par with how
Right, right,
movies and
right.
television shows are made?
Yeah, yeah, I would think so, no? Well, ako kasi ang belief ko to begin with, games in general um are designed by nature as an expression of story. No, games are stories. No, all games, whatever it is, all games are stories because the design is you have even the word protagonist, for example. No, protagonist comes from the Greek word protos and agonistes, meaning player one. No,
Oh,
protagonist means player one. So doon pa lang alam mo na a story is a game. It's a competition between protagonistes and the antagonist. Player one versus player two.
oh,
So if the Greeks knew that, no? So kahit na hindi pa siya video game, Olympics pa lang, ano ba, meron kang wrestler A versus wrestler B. Ang goal nila is to win, and in order to win they have to beat each other. So they fight and then they get the laurel. That's the basic structure of any story. Any sport is a story. A basketball game is a story. The goal is to put the ball inside
yes.
the basket, and then there is opposition. No, there's a team who will stop you from getting that ball in. All games are stories, and so the video games is just a modern manifestation of that natural, well, the natural structure of what a game is. Ano lang, nagkaroon lang tayo ng screen and then console, no? But really, sa pagkapanganak pa lang ng video games, it's interactive storytelling. Any game, even even Tetris. Ano ba yung Tetris, no? Ang goal mo, yung goal mo is to have a flat and then to matanggal yung wall by
Yes, yes.
creating those. So there's a player one, a protagonist with the goal and then with the difficulty that you have to overcome. Some stories are just more humanized, no?
Yeah.
Like Mario, for example, there's a character, you save a princess, no? Some stories are not too evident, no, but really the early games, for example, uh, Pac-Man, for example, hindi ganun ka-clear. But really, ang ano bang goal mo doon? Ubusin mo lahat ng pellets and then
Yeah.
avoid ghosts, di ba?
Yes,
So
yes.
there's a semblance of a story. So, but now that the technology has improved, I think the video games it's now reaching the level of cinema and TV shows. No, in fact, I forget the name of this game designer, the guy who did Death Stranding.
Oh,
No,
Kojima.
Kojima. Well, siya, tingin ko gusto niya lang maging filmmaker pero excuse na lang yung video games para makagawa ng pelikula. Because that's how he expresses storytelling. He designs games. But really, it's not about the game. It's about telling a story. And if I did not finish that game in Death Stranding, but kahit panoorin mo lang yung playthrough sa YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
parang, okay na to. Even if you don't play it, no? It's a lot of walking, just
Yeah.
walking, no? But really, what he's trying to do is just telling a story. So yeah, sure. He has achieved that level, I think.
All right. So these were all very great, insightful conversations. I really appreciate
Thank you, thank you.
taking your time for lending your time for me, for us, for the project.
Sure, sure.
Really had fun with the conversation, especially since you were very a big fan of Red Dead Redemption and like Kojima as well. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Mr. Valles. Again, so thank you very much.
Thank
And
you. Pleasure is mine. I had fun. I had fun.
So with that, I hope that you learned a lot from this episode. I sure did. And so for the next episode, we'll be using this as a focal point in discussing with a person from the video game industry to see how they create video games and if they actually have stories as a focal point in a video games development. So until then, see you guys.